Welcome to the REI Mastermind Network, where host Jack Haas gathers amazing stories from leaders in real estate investing. In each episode, our guests will tell you what they're doing that works, what they've tried that failed, and best of all, you'll learn actionable steps to take your real estate investing to the next level. Now, here's Jack with another value-packed episode.
We have Eric Martel on the call, and Eric, I really appreciate your time. But before we kick things off, I want to make sure everybody has your contact information, including a link to your book. So if everybody goes and checks the show notes, you'll find a link to Stop Trading Your Time for Money. And that title says a lot. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. But also marteleric.com, where you'll have a great consolidated place for all of Eric's links to his social media, his podcasts, and a few other things. His YouTube channel, there's a lot of great content there as well. So really appreciate your time here, Eric.
Well, thank you for having me, Jack. Pleasure to be here.
So we don't have a ton of time here today. We try to keep things in a reasonable amount of time, and there's a lot to cover here. But before I do, before we get deep into the weeds, what caused you to decide to write this book?
Well, I think we're heading towards a major financial crisis again. It's a retirement crisis this time. We are looking at the people that are the Gen Xers, the generation that are about to go and retire in the next 5, 10, 15 years. They have saved $135,000. That's the median retirement savings for these groups, and they're going to retire in 10 years. So if you look at that and you look at the Wall Street is telling these people how much they need in order to retire securely, they need between $1 and $1.5 million, sometimes $2 million in savings in order to retire. So there's a big gap there between $135,000 and $1.5 million in retirement saving. And so this is one of the big reasons why I wrote this book, is that there is the 401k is one good tools to save some money, but there is a better way to save for retirement and prepare for retirement, is to basically is rental properties. That's the best way to invest, and then make sure that you achieve financial freedom and are able to retire securely and leave a legacy for your children. And my book is really about that. It's a how-to guide for achieving financial freedom and leaving a legacy for your children.
Yeah, and you got started in this pretty early on. I know you bought your first multifamily at the age of 18, right?
That's right. So 8-unit apartment building. But when I bought it, I was 18 years old, so I was not thinking, financial freedom, or, I want to be, I want to quit the job I never had. So that was the plan at that point, is that I had met this mentor, as this real estate investor, and he was just a regular community college teacher. Nothing special, no special abilities. He was not smarter than anybody else. I hope he's not listening, because he might be insulted. But he was just an average guy making very average salary. And then he managed to build a 36-unit apartment building. He was building a shopping center. He invested also in nursing homes. And he was financially free, and he was able to, he still taught at the community college, but he didn't have to. And so when I met him, I said, you need to teach me how to do this. And this apartment building, it took about almost a year to get that from point zero to having this apartment building and finding it and negotiating the financing and all of that. But it proved to myself that it was possible for me to, as an 18 years old, or as a normal individual with no money, I was able to buy something that had a positive cash flow.
Right.
So that really affected my perspective on, and my relationship, I would say, with how to earn money.
Yeah, when you think about it, you kind of you were lucky in that situation, learning that lesson so early on in life.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I knew. Like my parents were kind of like most people, right? They were just like working 9 to 5. My father was literally working at a factory, and then like paycheck to paycheck. There was not much savings for retirement or anything like that. The good thing that he had working for him is that the company provided for him what's called a defined benefit pension plan, so a corporate pension plan with guaranteed benefits at retirement. So that was the nice thing, the best thing that he had going for him. But when I saw my parents, they were working hard and all of that, but I knew that this was not the life that I wanted. I wanted more, and I wanted to have more freedom. I didn't want to be like super rich or anything like that. I just wanted to have my time, and I wanted to be able to enjoy life. And then if I wanted to buy something that I needed, I didn't have to save for 6 months in order to get it. So I wanted to have that level of freedom. And that's what I'm hoping that I can help people with my book.
Sure. So, you probably came with a bit later on in life too, with a different perspective, because I understand you were an actuary at one point as well. So talk about how that has framed things and how it maybe influenced your book.
Yeah, I mean, this really, when I started working as an actuary, so an actuary, for people who don't know, is the mathematics of financial risk. And I worked for a consulting company, and we were working with the employers with their pension plan. So you had to kind of calculate their pension plan and then make sure there was enough money in there for their employees to retire, 20 years, 30 years down the road. So that's what I was doing. And then there was a shift at one point where the employers decided that, this is like every once in a while they had to write a check for millions of dollars because their reserve was in deficit. So they had to say, okay, well, we need to put now all of a sudden I have to put $2 million or $10 million into that retirement plan. And what happened is that employers decided that they didn't want to do that. And they said, well, instead of doing this, we're just going to close down the pension plan. We're going to convert that into basically a 401k, a simple retirement savings plan. And that really shifts the burden of retirement from the employer to the employee. So now the employees become 100% responsible for saving, 100% responsible for investing that money so that they have enough at retirement, and 100% responsible for converting these savings at retirement into a stream of income. And I don't know that many people who know how to do that, right? I know that my father wouldn't have been able to do that. And I know there's tons of other fathers out there and mothers out there that are working that they wouldn't know how to invest in the stock market to make sure they have enough money at retirement, and that they would know how to convert that savings into a stream of income. Mm-hmm. So that was the big challenge. And I knew that it was not a positive environment to work in when every day I would just kind of wind down and close down these pension plans. And then I knew that I was shifting the risk to employees that, they didn't know how to plan for retirement and be ready for retirement.
Right. No, I mean, what a unique perspective. I mean, you actually saw, that's probably when you mentioned, a lot of people are going to have to save upwards of $2 million or more if you're a Gen Xer to retire. That was probably that big first insight that a lot of people aren't hitting that mark.
Mm-hmm. And the $1.5 to $2 million is actually coming from Wall Street. They want you to save money. The more money you save, the more commission they make, the more, so the more fees they make and all of that. So that's good for them. If you invest in rental properties though, and if you invest early, you don't need that much. You don't need that much money. You need a lot less than that. And but you need to change your goal. Wall Street wants you to have this accumulation kind of like mindset where, save, save, save. You want to have more savings. You want to have a bigger stock portfolio. And what I'm suggesting is that people focus into a more cash flow kind of mindset where you focus on passive income. And what that looks like is that instead of me saying I want to have a $1.5 million in saving, I'm saying I need $7,000 or $10,000 a month in passive income. Mm-hmm. And I can start working on that today. I can buy a rental property today, put $20,000, $30,000 down, and I'm going to make $250 a month or $300 a month in passive income. So already I can I can see the progress, and it's a completely different mindset where you really focus on that passive income and you just keep adding layers and then until you reach your goal.
Sure. So, another thing, since you started to invest so early on, you probably rode the wave too regarding the .com bust as well as the real estate downturn. Yep. Like, I think, let's be frank here. I don't know about you, but when it comes, we've heard that we're going to see another real estate downturn. I mean, it's just a recurring thing year after year. We keep hearing people saying that this is going to happen again in some fashion, but things seem to be a little questionable right now regarding a few things. Mm-hmm. What do you, based on your experience, what are your thoughts, and how should people prepare?
So I think for 2000, like if we go back at 2008, what happened with the big financial crash is that a lot of people that were owning property they shouldn't have owned property. They were lent money that they knew, like the bankers, the brokers, everybody knew that these people could not afford the house when the interest rate would go back up. Right. So they were given these loans at very low rate. And then, for the end that was adjustable in 2 or 3 years. And all of that came to a peak. And then now they realize that, I can't afford the house anymore. So we're not in this situation right now. I think we have the people that own the house, they have the loans. They are people that can afford a home. They may have some stressful or distress in terms of, they lost their job or something like that. And then all of a sudden they can't afford the job. But there's also like forbearance. So the banks and the governments are helping to make sure that these people have a way of, either continue to pay for their, delay the payment of their mortgage and then or renegotiate their mortgage or do something like that, or have assistance from the government, or have a way, some people would also have to have a way out of that real estate. But I don't expect any kind of like big adjustment like what we've seen in 2008, like the massive foreclosures or anything like that. I think there will be some that will decide to, that they can't afford the house and they have to move out. But I don't think it's going to be a big thing. What we're seeing right now is a big increase in value of the properties. And I think that's what's going to happen is that this may go down. So we may end up having some people that are going to be underwater. So basically their mortgage is going to be higher than the value of their house. But, if you continue to pay your mortgage, you can also renegotiate with the bank. It's not as bad a situation as it was in 2008, I don't think.
Sure. So again, just to remind everybody, MartelEric.com, and I'll make sure to have that link in the show notes. But also check out Eric's YouTube channel, as there's a lot of content there as well. So let's get people kickstarted here. Where should they start, in your opinion, in real estate investing?
Yeah. So for me, I want to go back also to 2001, the .com crash, before we get there, because that was really when it. I really decided at that point, like I lost like a lot of money I lost a fortune in that dot-com crash. I had stock options in companies, and I was trying to invest in real estate at that point. And I was in San Francisco, and there's really nothing that made sense that was cash flowing with good returns. So I stayed in. I was diversified, but I was diversified in the stock market. And when the whole stock market crashes, this is not diversified. So it's very important to diversify across multiple asset class. So if you want to continue to invest in the stock market, that's great, but you should definitely consider investing in other asset class like real estate, which is kind of like where I'm heading. Is that what is the best investment? If I had to start with like a blank canvas or a blank whiteboard or piece of paper, I would look, what are the criteria for the best investment? Well, I want something that use leverage. I want to put as little money as I can and control a big asset. I want to have something that's going to cash flow. I want something that's going to appreciate. I want something that's going to offer me some inflation protection. And I want something that I don't have to spend too much time on it, right? So that it's going to produce the cash flow, but I don't have to, so it's passive income. And might as well, I want to have something that has like a great tax benefit. Mm-hmm. And there's only one asset class that's like that, and it's real estate. It's real estate rentals, not your own home. Your own home doesn't have these things, but if you buy a rental property, then you have access to all these benefits. So you have definitely a lot of tax benefits in terms of depreciation that would offset your income. You can use leverage. You can use it. It appreciates. It's inflation protection because the rent that you're charging can increase with inflation. So it's tons of benefit. And if you have property management company on top of that, then you don't have to spend too much time managing these properties. So this is why my recommendation is rental properties. And you can get started with as little as $20,000-$30,000, to buy that a single family rental. And I think you have most of your listeners, I think are they in the coast, New York, or East or West Coast?
Nope, they're across the United States. Actually.
Across the United States. Okay.
Yeah.
So because if you're on the coast, like this is, you'd say, you can buy something for $30,000 in down payment. People can't believe it, but it is possible. And we invest in Memphis, in St. Louis, and Cleveland, and we can have these properties. We have these properties there every day.
Yeah. So you're pretty much advocating then that you technically don't even have to invest in your backyard.
Absolutely not. And I think you want to invest where it makes sense. So you want to live where you want to live, and you want to invest where it makes financial sense. This is absolutely critical. And I was in San Francisco. I mean, it's a good market, but for some investment strategy, not for cash flowing. If you want to have passive income, this is not the ideal place for that. If you want to have something that cash flows, that means you're going to have to put 50% of down payment in order for it to cash flow. But then obviously your cash on cash return is going to be 2%, maybe 1% return. So that's not a very good return. But when you invest in Cleveland, I mean, our investors that are buying our turnkey rentals, they're getting 10 to 12% cash on cash return.
Sure. So you just mentioned that you provide turnkeys? Yeah,
that's right. So my other company is MartelTurnkey. So we do sell turnkey rental properties to investors. But my key, I mean, I don't care if people buy from me. I think everybody should invest in single family rental or multifamily rentals. And because that's for all the reasons that I mentioned, why this is such the perfect investment vehicle.
Sure. Well, another thing that you pointed out that you suggested, and I think your book is a great title, Stop Trading Your Time for Money. A lot of people who get into real estate investing, especially that first time, it's almost as if they've created themselves another job. How important is it to keep that property manager type of situation in place right off the bat?
Yeah, people tend to, there's a couple of things. I mean, people tend to kind of like invest in things that based on returns, but they should also look at the resources. It's good to, there are some ways to make very good returns, but you have to invest a lot of time in it, or you have to invest, a lot more money into it. And so you have to look at your resources. If you're working full time, continue your full-time job until you reach a certain level of passive income. Once you have about 80% of your expenses are covered by passive income, then you can consider kind of like quitting your job. If this is something you want to do, you don't have to if you enjoy your job. But then you can consider, okay, well, I want to spend really more time with this. I want to kind of slow down my W-2 job, my 9 to 5, and I want to really focus. I really enjoy real estate or this other investment strategy, and I want to spend more time on that. But for most people, the idea is that keep your job, focus on strategies that are not going to require that much time. This is why the property management is important. This is why it's important to invest with like a turnkey rental property. So you don't have to deal with contractors, making sure that you're in the right market, make sure that you have that you're actually getting the rent that you thought you would get, and all that kind of stuff. So turnkey, it's already done. I mean, the properties that we sell, they already have a tenant in place, so you know exactly what you're getting. So all the numbers are there, and so there's no risk at that point, or it's very little risk, and it doesn't take much time. We introduce you to the lender, the insurance company, property management company, and it's literally turnkey, and you're cash flowing from day one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting you say that you even have a tenant in place, because I've found that turnkey property places, they're all over the place, including, I've seen some that will source the property and then you have to pay for the rehab and get it all going, and then they finally get the renter in. But you've kind of taken care of the heavy lifting for a lot of people.
Well, exactly, because I think we're catering to the people that have a full-time job. They don't want to deal with the construction and the contractor and all of that. They don't want to have to find another tenant. So we want to make sure we're the expert in the market, right? So we should know that it's gonna rent. We should know what the rent is, and then because the tenant is in place when we close on the property, then we kind of like, we've closed the gap. This is like truly turnkey, and there's no unknown, there's no surprises in terms of the for the buyer, for the investor. Because I know, we had similar stories. We heard similar stories from other investors. When they come to us, they say, "Oh, I was with this other company, and it took me like 3 months to rent the place." So it's like, so that means that you calculated your return based on having 12 months of rent this year, but now you have only 9 months of rent, and you have to pay these fees. So yeah,
right. So how do you source these properties? And that's probably going to be a great example of if somebody wanted to attempt this themselves in their backyard, what are some of the better approaches to locate some of these properties?
So, I mean, the best approach is to use all approaches, to use them all. So MLS, we still find lots of properties on MLS. So we have like saved searches on MLS that's kind of like sending us some listings. We also use wholesalers. So we have a bunch of wholesalers that are sending us deal. I also have my own like wholesaling company called Rocket Offer, OFFR.com. So they're also sending us deals. So they have like a search engine and AI engine that helps us source deals for us. And then have a good relationship with some realtors in your market. Just very good relationship that they send you pocket deals, things that are completely off market that nobody knows about. And if you're easy to work with, I mean, we have these realtors just calling us. Imagine you're a realtor, you get a call from somebody that, hey, I want to sell my rental property, and say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to call Eric and say, hey, I have a house for you. Okay, you're going to buy it. Okay. Or do I want to start typing it on MLS and then answering phone calls from random people? Yeah, obviously the Option one is the best. They're just going to call their preferred investors and say, "Hey, I have this house for sale." They don't have to do any of the hard work, and the house is sold. They make their commission and all of that. So that's developing a good relationship with the realtor is very important.
Sure. So with your turnkey properties, what have you found are some of those things that that would typically be problem areas that you take care of right away to make sure it's a good long-term rental?
So we take all the big ticket items. So anything that's mechanical, so the HVAC, the heating and air conditioning, hot water tank, any kind of major problem on the electrical panel, roofs. So we take care of those. So we don't necessarily replace them with new items. Sometimes if it's fairly new and there's like still like at least 10 years. Then we're going to keep the unit in place. But that's basically it. So we want to make sure that all these things are going to be taken care of. And then after that, it's just a question of cleaning up and painting and flooring and all of that so that the unit looks nice and clean for the new tenant.
So, I want to back up on one thing because, I really like the title of your book, but you mentioned saving $2 million versus figuring out that you might want $7,000 to $10,000 a month in passive income. And that is a mindset goal change that really seems to impact a lot of people. If you can shift your mind from trying to save that amount of money to what you need on a monthly basis, it makes something that sounds insurmountable more relatable.
Absolutely. 100%. And this is exactly, you're looking at these goals and then, look at my example of the person that's like 50 to 55 and is about to retire and he has $135,000 in saving. And now he's talking to his financial advisor, who is a salesperson, is going to say, "Oh yeah, you need to have $1.5 million in savings to retire." So what does he do? Like, is he going to try to save $1.5 million? No, he's just going to give up and say, "Oh, I'm just going to work till I die," kind of thing. So, which is kind of, which is kind of like the default plan, I think, for a lot of people. And even the millennials, they're thinking they know they're going to have to work longer. They're planning to retire later. And there's another option out there. And that passive income goal, yeah, you're right. I mean, it makes it so much more tangible. I know that and it's connected with my expenses. I know that I spend like $5,000 a month, let's say. These are my expenses with my rent, blah, blah, blah. Then I start building layer after layer, $250, $500, $1,000 a month. After 4 houses, I'm already covered 20% of my expenses. I just need, a few more houses and then all my expenses are covered. Mm-hmm. So this is so much more, seems so much more achievable. And you can feel the progress as you're progressing. You can feel the change. You can see that you're going to get also more out of it as well. So you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment as well. Something that you don't get when you're $1.5 million away from retirement.
Yeah, no. And what I think is really interesting too, is that we as a society have gotten trained, if you will, to just passively throw money into a IRA or what have you, a retirement account of some kind, without any control over it. We just kind of throw it in there and trust it's going to happen. Well, you've just demonstrated it likely will not happen if you don't take some sort of control over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. People are putting money in there and they don't even know how that's going to be converted into a stream of income at retirement. So, I mean, there are typical ways to do that. I don't know if we have time, but I mean, there's one of them is the bond ladder, for example. Well, bond ladder, when the interest rate is 2-3%, it doesn't make sense. A bond ladder is basically a series of bonds with different maturity date. That used to be very popular when the interest rate was normal. Now, with a low interest rate like this, it doesn't make any sense to do that. The other one that's talked about quite often is the 4% rule, the 4% asset withdrawal method. But that assumes that you are investing in the stock market actively or semi-actively, and that the stock market is going to continue to grow at, more than 4% per year. There's going to be some years where it's going to go down. And so, in those days, you're going to have to eat up some of your capital. So it's not going to be that good. And then we left with annuities, which is probably the worst thing that you can pick. They have massive fees. They have like layers after layers of fees. And the payout, if you put $1 million in there, once you take all the riders that make sense in terms of survival, 100% survivorship and indexation and all of that, you're going to end up with a payout of about 3 to 4% per year. So if you put $1 million in there, you're going to get $40,000 a year in payment. That is not much. And then if you die too soon, then there's nothing left for your legacy, for your children after that. And we're left really with real estate. Real estate rental is the best way to do it, and you don't need as much money as people are thinking. So, for example, the $5,000 a month. If you have $5,000 a month in expenses, cash flow. So you need about, if a house cash flows for $250 a month, so that means you need about 20 houses to do that, and 20 houses at $20,000 or $20,000 is only $400,000 to $500,000 in savings, in money that you need in order to get these 20 houses that will cover $5,000 of expenses. This is much less than the $1 million to $1.5 million that people are talking about.
Right. So
I know there was a lot of numbers. Sorry about that.
No. I think it's an exercise a lot of people have to go through, including taking a moment and writing down exactly what your expenses are, so you have a clear idea as to what you need to cover. I frankly don't think a lot of people do that. That's and right. I think my listeners are tired of hearing me saying it. And until it's written down, until you go through those type of exercises, that's when a dream becomes a target. You need to define that target.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to figure out, if you're big on 401k and you think this is the way to go, figure out early how this is going to be converted into a stream of income. And the earlier you figure that out, the better you're going to sleep at night, and the better I will feel personally. Mm-hmm. But that this is the thing that you have to figure out, because otherwise it's not, if you want to go with the 401k, if you want to go with same thing with rental properties or any other investment, figure out how this is going to help you achieve financial freedom.
Well, Eric, I wanted to remind everybody one more time, it's MartelEric.com. Definitely check out the YouTube channel. And I know you're on Facebook and Instagram and a few other places. So if somebody has a preferred network. But before I let you go, is there a question you wished I would have asked you here today?
No, I think you've asked all these questions, but I think what's important is focus on achieving financial freedom. That should be everybody's number one goal, especially as we're going into this gig economy and these challenging times. I think this is, and the best case scenario is that you're going to retire securely. And there's an even better scenario is that you might be able to retire earlier than what you expected to retire.
Well, I really appreciate your time. This was a great conversation. I hope you'll consider coming back sometime.
Absolutely.
Have you learned at least one actionable step to incorporate into your real estate investing? If so, please consider returning some of that value by leaving a positive review, subscribing to our YouTube channel, or joining our growing network on Facebook and Twitter. You can find links to all of our social media accounts in the show notes. See you next time.